Okay, welcome back to my garage for some more logic. We're continuing in category logic. Today, let's just focus on translating English statements into standard form categorical statements. Remember what standard form is? There are four standard forms: A, E, I, O. Remember those? And so we're going to take non-standard, I guess you could say, sentences in English language that are not written in standard form, and then we're going to rewrite them and put them in standard form. Okay, first one. I have a number here, I don't know, like 10 or something. Anybody who races horses has got to believe in miracles. Let's see, is it talking about, let's see. This is not stated, I mean, the subject is not obviously stated. What is the subject here? I guess people who race horses. That is the subject. And is it talking about every member of that subject? Let's see, right, or that category? Yeah. Everybody, all those who race horses. Okay? So let's begin that way. All people who race horses. And it's not clear, right? It doesn't specify. It doesn't say jockeys. It could be people who right, own the horses who race them. So don't change the wording because it's not clear right here. So stick with it, and you'll be fine. All people who race horses are. You need to put it in this form. All circles are squares. You have to have what's called the quantifier here. Quantifier that points to, that quantifies over a range of, you could say individuals or things, or members of a set, quantifies over them. The R is sometimes called the copula, right? It allows us to connect subject with the predicate. We're going to use this form here. All people, so all the quantifier there, people who race horses, that is a category, right there, are, let's see, people who believe in miracles. No, let's not change the wording really. Are people who have got to believe in miracles. All right, so we have subject term, predicate term related together in this way. It's an A statement, and you can even put A statement right there. A statement. All right, we have two categories, and we know what they refer to. B, let's look at that one. Temporary workers. Temporary workers are not eligible for, let's say, government benefits. All right. So that's our statement to translate. Okay. So let's see. Keep in mind, there's a not right here. So this is a negative statement. So right away we know it's either going to be an E statement or an O statement. And the question is it universal or particular? Is it talking about all temporary workers? Or is it talking about just some? It doesn't have a word, right, giving you indication what it is. So you just have to think about what this probably means. It probably means all temporary workers. Now, we're not allowed to, remember the last video, you're not allowed to say all temporary workers are not, because that's ambiguous. So you rewrite it to fit one of these forms. It's going to be E. Doesn't that work? No. Let's just write down and see if it works. No temporary workers Okay. There we go. That's a set right there. That's a category right there. Temporary workers are. So I know the word not's right here, but in a way we've captured this meaning here by putting the quantifier no at the start here. Okay? I know it's tempting to say something like all temporary workers are not, but again, that is unclear. This is much clearer. No temporary workers are eligible for government benefits. No, you need to specify a category. Just saying eligible for government benefits is not good enough. So you'd write something like people, right? Because we're talking about people, aren't we? Temporary workers, we're talking about, again, persons, probably humans, right? Are people eligible for government benefits? Benefits. Okay? So here's another clear category right here. People eligible for government benefits. That's the predicate term, subject term, temporary workers. Okay, let's look at C here. Not all guilt feelings are psychological aberrations. Not all guilt feelings are psychological aberrations. This one clearly doesn't look like one of these, but you just have to figure out, what does it mean? Let's see. Does it mean no guilt feelings are psychological aberrations? No. It doesn't mean all, right, because it's not all. So it's going to be, it's not all, so it's not going to be an A statement. Let's see. By saying not all also doesn't mean it's a no statement. It's going to be a statement that's not universal at all. It'll be a particular statement. So that means it's either going to be an I statement or an O statement. Does it mean some guilt feelings are psychological aberrations? No. It means some guilt feelings are not psychological aberrations. Some. I'm putting the bracket here, but you don't need that. I'm putting the bracket just to be clear in marking off the subject and predicate terms. Some guilt feelings are not psychological aberrations. Then reread that. Some guilt feelings are not psychological aberrations. Does that say the same thing? Does it mean the same thing as not all guilt feelings are psychological aberrations? Yeah. So we're good. All right, let's look at D here. D. Manipulators do not, I'll just put don't, make it easier, right? Don't make good marriage partners. Okay? First question to keep in mind right here is it talking about all manipulators or some manipulators? Less, right, or fewer than all manipulators. It looks like it's talking about all manipulators. Okay? Without making that explicit, without saying, we're talking about all or something like that, right? It's pretty clear that it means all here. Again, look, D, it looks very similar actually to B. It's fairly redundant with B. So we can learn from B here that the best way of translating D is like this. No manipulators are good marriage partners. Good marriage partners. See, that works pretty well. Okay. Okay, let's get to E. Most jazz fans admire Duke Ellington. Okay. Duke Ellington. All right. Now, this is a little bit tricky, because if you're really a careful thinker, you're going to go, well, I can't express this in terms of any of these standard forms, because most doesn't automatically mean all, right? So it's not universal. It's not making a claim about all jazz fans. It's saying most. So I guess that's more than 50% of jazz fans. But neither does most mean at least one. Most means at least 50%. So how could this be translated either as a universal statement or a particular statement? Okay, here's one of those cases where our translation is not going to capture the exact logical meaning of the original sentence, but it'll work in terms of our goals. And what are our goals? Well, ultimately, it will be to evaluate the validity of arguments using categorical statements, such as this one. When this is featured in an argument, it turns out that logically speaking, if you translated it as an I or O statement, in other words, as a sum statement, particular statement, it works. Okay? It works. So it's a means to an end. So we should translate this as some jazz fans, that's our subject term, are, let's say, you could say people who admire Duke Ellington, or you could say admirers. That's hard to say. Admirers of Duke Ellington. Or Duke Ellington admirers. See that? I know it doesn't quite capture the meaning as you would express it, in everyday life and talking to other people. But in terms of our goals, in terms of evaluating categorical arguments, this works. This works. Okay, let's get to F. All right, this one actually is about me, I guess. Although it's no longer true. But when I wrote it originally, it was true. Mark has never listened to Mars Volta. I don't know, I had some students who were shocked or something. And then, of course, one of my students actually gave me a CD of Mars Volta. So I listened to it and thought it was okay. And I don't know if I ever listened to it again, but that was cool that my student did that. All right. Now look at that. Wow. How to do this one. This one's a little bit trickier. Now you might be tempted to do something like this. All marks are people, who have never listened? No, you might want to do this. So you might be tempted to do this instead. Okay, no marks are people who have listened to Mars Volta. Okay. Wait, that's a little weird though. Because it's me, Mark, right? I've never listened to Mars Volta. That's the original sentence says. Me. It doesn't say anyone who's named Mark. I mean, how many Marks are out there? I mean, not a huge number. But we're not talking about all the people named Mark. Okay? We're talking just about me. So this one's a little bit tricky. Does it mean some marks? Some? At least one mark is a person who has listened to Mars Volta? That's not what I'm saying right here. It's not at least one person named Mark has never listened to Mars Volta. No, it's not saying that. It's saying this particular being, this being right here, Mark, has never listened. So, actually, expressing it this way, no marks or some marks, do not work. Neither works. So here's one way to do it. It's pretty awkward, but actually it does kind of make sense. Check it out. No people, check this out. This is weird. Identical with Mark. It's not all people named Mark. No, because again, it's about one individual. Now, people identical with Mark. This is a set. Think of it as a set, but wait, it has one member. It's a set of beings, has one member, and that's me. No people identical with Mark are people who have listened to Mars Volta. Similarly, if you had the sentence, famous sentence, Socrates is mortal, you could translate that as, all people identical with Socrates, not all Socrateses, no, all people identical with Socrates are mortal beings. Okay, I'm going to erase this and we'll continue with a few more. All right, so you get a really good idea. All right, let's do 3 more statements. Take this one. Okay. Let's see. I guess we call that, this one's G, isn't it? Comets are the only heavenly bodies with tails. All right, it's pretty clearly a universal claim. So it's either going to be an A or an E statement. So think about that. Now, let's just try to make it an all statement, I guess, keep in the same order. All comets are heavenly bodies with tails. Is that what this means? Or is it all heavenly bodies with tails are comets? Doesn't the latter one make the most sense? Let me write that down. All heavenly bodies with tails are comets. This one's a little bit tricky because I think it's the only one we've seen so far where the order gets reversed. Okay? Comets are the only heavenly bodies with tails. You're never going to find a heavenly body that's not a comet. Okay? All heavenly bodies with tails are comets. Yeah, it makes more sense. Okay? It's actually talking about all heavenly bodies with tails. It's not talking about all comets. You notice that? So the subject term is heavenly bodies with tails. See that? It's not talking about all comets. It's only talking about all heavenly bodies with tails. This one's a little bit tricky, so look at this one carefully. H. G-H. Okay. Let's keep with a planetary theme, I guess. Lunar eclipses. Lunar eclipses do not occur unless the moon is full. Okay. This is tricky on a couple of levels. The main reason I brought this one in, the main reason I brought this example in is because you could quantify. So you could refer to a set, quantify over it. You don't have to refer to things, like in this case, lunar eclipses. You can actually quantify over times and places. So let me explain here. Let me give you, I guess, the correct answer just right away. And you'll see another reason why I gave this example too. But look at this. All times lunar eclipses occur. Look at that. That's a category right there. Times lunar eclipses occur are times the moon is full, or times when the moon is full. Okay, you see that? So the subject term times lunar eclipses occur are, and the predicate term times the moon is full. So we're talking about times. That's really interesting. We could certainly do that. Another reason I brought this one in is because it might be tempting to translate this as a no statement. Okay? So you might do something like this. No times lunar eclipses occur. Skip the same subject term. Okay, no times lunar eclipses occur are times the moon is not full. Now, technically, I guess you could say that works. It captures the meaning of the original sentence, and it's in one of these standard forms. However, it has an extra negative right there. You see that? It has an extra negative. That's generally not, even though it might be standard form, I guess, to put a negation into a category, it's not good form. Especially when you can replace it with something with no negatives. Look at that. This one's more straightforward right there. This one has two negatives in a sense. So I would prefer this one right here, this answer here, over that one, even though they logically mean the same thing. Okay, let's look at our final example. That one's I, isn't it? I. And so let's H-I-J. Okay, let's do this one. Everywhere is different. Okay. I'm bringing in this one primarily because it quantifies over places. You're not going to write all everywhere are different. That's grammatically doesn't make any sense. So you're not going to do all wheres. That's really odd. So everywhere is different. Okay. I think that probably the most natural, I don't know, you tell me here. Let's quantify over places. Everywhere, isn't that talking about places? All places are, now, what are we going to say right here? All places are different places. I don't know if that's what J is actually saying. So, how about this? All places are places that are different. Now, is it, I don't know, should we add something else? I think maybe that's good enough. Places, but it's saying they're different from each other, isn't it? It's a little iffy. I guess I'd probably write this. I'd like to know the context a little better, but all places, so that's the subject term, are places that are different from each other. Everywhere is different. I think that's what it's getting at. Okay. Now, what if you did something like this? No places are places that are the same. That's tempting, but that's another lesson to end with here. If you don't have to change the wording here, because you're changing it to not the same rather than different, right? Don't do it. Just stick with the original language here, different. It might be tempting to change it up and say, not the same. The other issue is, if you say no places are places that are not the same, that's again, you get the double negative problem. So I think this is the better answer right there. Okay? Oh, that isn't J. Look, right? All right, we already have H here, so I guess this is I. All right. Hopefully, I've covered enough examples so you have a pretty good idea about translations. Try to translate all the ones in your text. You will find English language statements that can't be translated into categorical form. But you've also seen that many statements you can do it that way. All right. I think next video we're going to look at actually how to diagram these kinds of statements. Right now we've been just using, we've just been translating them into standard form. That's about it. Okay, see you next time.